I kept hearing from the Lord, and I still do, him declaring, it's time to get back to basics. It's time to get back to basics. It's time to get back to basics. Now, I really want to quickly unpack that so there's no misunderstanding. Back to basics does not mean back to square one, back to the beginning, or back to the little things. Back to basics means embracing the one we know is real and true and powerful and pure and all that he's blessed us with to walk in because it works. There's a reason you go to basic training in the military. You learn the basic things that will work when you're in battles. The basics of a battle is hold ground, take ground, point your weapon, pull the trigger on your weapon, advance, and take out the enemy. It's the same right now. I know I've been highlighting this almost every time we talk, but it's so important because the enemy is working so hard to discourage the body right now. But remember, God himself says, many of the prophetic voices out there, myself included, have declared for the last couple years, we've really entered an Isaiah 60 season. And we all know it, but God has so highlighted Isaiah 60 verse 2 to me, where he says, behold, darkness in the earth and deep darkness on the people. He doesn't say hide from it, ignore it, duck and cover, hang on until I come back. In the midst of it, he says, no, behold it. Why? He wants us to see it, so we'll deal with it. In his power, by his authority, all to his glory, but we are here to deal with it. And I think that's why it's a back to basics season. Because he wants to remind us of some of the simple things that he's given us, the basic truths that if we choose to walk in them, if we choose to step out and do them, like it says in James 2:22, we're going to see amazing results. My brother-in-law is a football coach, and he's been coaching at the NFL level for years. And he was the head coach of a team for many years. And I remember going to his office one day in Alameda, where they had their facilities. And I'm sitting in his office, and I'm looking at his big boards, and all the practice fields are down there. And I was like, "What's your plan?" Because he was taking over a team that needed a lot of help. And he had all these different things. But at one point, I remember being down on the field and walking around as they were coaching the players. And they were going through this thing, and I don't really understand that. I was never much of an athlete. But basically, it was these walkthroughs where they would do everything at half speed. And I asked him afterwards, why do you do that? All the movies and stuff I watch, I don't know anything about professional sports. They're like, smashing. We'll get there. But we start with the basics. He said, look, at this level, everybody is the best of the best of the best. He said the best players in junior high become the best players in high school, become the best players at university. At this level, everybody is a gifted athlete. He said, now there are some that are absolute freaks, but even them, in this league, we figure out how to contain them. He said it never takes this league more than a year or two for the most gifted freak of an athlete for us to figure out how to maybe not shut them down, but to deal with them. And I've got a bunch of stories about that I don't have time to go into. He said, so at this level, it's 10% physical, 90% mental, and you must always go back to the basics every once in a while so that you focus on the things that work, like blocking, like hitting, like tackling, like this, like that, like things I don't understand because I've never been much of an athlete. But at the very highest levels of sport, there are times they say, okay, if we're going to advance to the next level, we're going to start by coming back to basics. Because when you do the basics over and over and over again, muscle memory is triggered. So then in the trenches, then in the midst of that split-second decision, because at the highest levels, it happens so quickly. He was telling me how some of the best athletes at the university level don't make it at the professional level because they can't handle the increase of the speed. For quarterbacks, they're used to I don't know, I'm going to make this part up because it was years ago and I don't remember, but I get the principle. You're used to your receiver who's the best in the college levels getting a 10-yard gap on somebody. But in the pros, you get a half a yard gap. And you've got to work the ball into that and understand the timing there. And the hits come quicker and all of that. He said, so it comes down to you must always go back to basics to retrain muscle memory, not to re-remember something, but retrain it so you're even quicker to respond with it. And I believe that's why we're in a back to basics season, because this is a time to advance. This is a time to point our weapons, pull the trigger on our weapons, to advance territory, to hold territory. There's nothing wrong with holding territory. You have to hold it so it can be occupied, and then you advance from it. And to take out the enemy. The reason the enemy has been on display is, one, he's active in the earth. But if you feel like he's more active than ever, I would actually say, I don't know if he's more active. I think we're more aware of how active he is. And that's God. The word God gave me 2 years ago, September of 2020, remember, when all those prophetic voices said 2020 would be the year of clear vision. And I had a different word for 2020 that we built on. But in this September of 2020, the Lord spoke to me in my prayer chair and said, this is the year of clear vision. But many of my people thought what they'd see is clearly see me moving, and I am. But my agenda, meaning God's agenda, was that you would clearly see the enemy and what the enemy is up to so you can target him and take him out. And all of a sudden, and I'm not saying I've never gone back into discouragement. It's been a very challenging couple of years. But I would lean back into that word and remember, wait a minute. The reason I'm seeing the enemy so clearly is so I can get him in my sights and take him out. Because we are dominion stewards. We are his solution in the earth. We are his difference makers. We're here to deal with the darkness by releasing the light. Ready for more? Go to roberthodgkin.com for more teachings, more resources, and more information about Robert Hotchkin Ministries and Men on the Front Lines.